Good evening. I'm Lavanja. Hopefully, you know that by now. And this is the Arsenal Lounge. I've got a very special guest on today. I'm really excited about this, and I hope you guys are too. Firstly, just to introduce, I have obviously people know Shaheen. He's part of our show here, and he's co-host. And the one we're really excited about today, and we've been waiting on, Mr. Graham Brooks, with his technical know-how and his knowledge. We're really keen to understand what's going on. So, Graham, pleasure to have you. Thanks for coming on, mate. We're really looking forward to hear what you have to say about things. What you got to say initially about what you saw today before we go into all the breakdown and everything.
Well, first of all, thanks very much for the invite, guys.
Pleasure.
That's quite an introduction to live up to. So,
I was going to sing a song for you and all sorts, but didn't have much time. But look, I don't want you to. I know we're going to dig into all of things, so I don't really want you to go into the game too much yet. But looking at the lineup today, we'll do that first. So obviously we all know what the result was, but we'll touch on that later. So the lineup today, we had Leno. No surprises there. Bellerin, Luiz, Gabriel, Tierney. Then we had El Neni, Ceballos, Saka. And then we had Willian, Eddie up front, Nketiah and Aubameyang on the left. So looking at the way he's lining up right now, Graham, this particular formation first, why do you think he's playing this formation? And what do you think behind Arteta's sort of plans behind this sort of system?
Well, I think it was more a three. I thought that at the back at times than a four.
Okay.
I think that I was surprised by some of the selections at the start. I honestly believed that possibly he would start. I think Gabriel coming back in was the right call. The question was he going to play Tierney in a back three, or have him pushing on at left wing back and play holding Luiz, Gabriel as a back three, then Bellerin and Tierney as wing backs, or play Saka as a wing back play Tierney as the. So I'll start again. Play a back three.
Go on.
Yeah, play a back three of holding Luiz and Gabriel, and play Tierney as the wing back, and then leave Saka out, or Gabriel play Saka on the right, or was he going to play Saka as a wing back and play Tierney and leave out maybe Holding? But I must admit, I was surprised with what he come up with today. I was surprised that Eddie got in ahead of Laka. Laka, albeit he missed his chance at Anfield 2-1. He did.
We'll touch on that in a bit.
He has actually sort of like scored 3 and 3 for us. So I was surprised by that selection. But overall, I think that, and I'm surprised that El Neni stayed in the side. I'll be honest with you. For a game like Sheffield United at home, Sheffield United play a 3-5-2. But no, the lineup did catch me by surprise. I honestly thought that he would he wouldn't make those
Which areas in particular, Graham? Which areas in particular surprised you the most? Looking through this lineup with Leno, I mean, Leno's obvious, Bellerin's obvious. Luiz, he likes to use Luiz. Gabriel, I think, should be a mainstay moving forward. I think he should be a regular. Tierney, the Tierney thing, is that a surprise where he's playing him, or the El Neni thing, or Eddie up top? Which particular areas? Is it you expected Lacazette in the middle?
Yeah, I thought Laka would keep his place today, but he didn't. It might have been tactical, of course. He wanted Nketiah to sort of like maybe high energy pressing to stop their centre halves getting out wide. I don't know. But I obviously Xhaka didn't play today, so El Neni came in for Xhaka, didn't he? So that was a change. I don't know if
Xhaka had worrying, to be honest with you, Graham, that El Neni came in for Xhaka. I think it's a bit. Sorry to interrupt you, by the way, but I totally agree with you. I thought
very rude, Shaheen. Very rude, mate.
Yeah, I know. It's not a good start, is it? No, but I thought Lacazette would have given us more in this game, because Sheffield United has got a proper unit as a defender, very strong, and I think it was quite clear until the substitution that they actually handled Nketiah really well. He was poor, he didn't offer anything. And I thought Lacazette could have put it about a little bit more, hold up the ball, bringing people in play. So I totally agree with you. And I think, going back to the El Neni point, the fact that he starts and Xhaka is on the bench, it probably tells me that he's not going anywhere.
Well, look, I mean, what I want to do, gents, is I want to get into the nitty-gritty of the formation and the team and why, I've got a load of questions for Graham. For example, the Aubameyang on the left, why are we not playing him in the middle? Why, all these sort of things I want to touch on. But I think what we should do first is look at the game, right? See what our thoughts are on the game, see how we think it all worked. And then we can move into the tactics and the technique, the tactics side of it. And then we can then look at other areas. But the game itself started pretty slowly. I think you mentioned that, Graham, offline when we were having a chat. Why are we starting so slowly? But I felt my initial instinct is, especially with teams with a low block, we struggle to break them down. If you look at our midfield, for example, you've got El Neni and Xhaka, usually, or one of those two, and we seem to lack a bit of creativity when teams drop back deep and we have to break them down. We seem to have a bit more success when we can break away really quickly. Look at the game; it was a bit of a dead first half. We had the Luis situation. I think personally, I'm going to be honest, it was probably a red. It would have been a bit soft. It was a little tug, but it was still probably a red. If it was against us, I would have been fuming. But second half, we started the second half a lot better, in my opinion. I think the major difference for me was Pepe being brought on. I've got my views on Pepe as well. We'll talk about that. But look, the main thing with regards to the results that have been happening recently in this season, with a lot of weird results. I mean, West Ham beat Leicester at their ground, and we've seen what happened to United today. We saw what happened to Chelsea a couple of weeks ago as well. Is this a season that it's going to be a lot of teams beating others, surprisingly? And should we be happy that we've actually won this game 2-1? We didn't create first half. Second half, we seem to create a bit more. And look, great goal in the first goal, in my opinion. A little bit of interplay between, I think it was Willian to Pepe to, I think it was El Neni, played Bellerin through, Bellerin over the top, Saka, goal. And then we had Pepe with a great sort of individual goal, in my opinion, being utilised correctly for once. So what was your take on the game, Graham?
Well, I thought we started very slowly. I think this has been like this for a while now. We're starting games very slowly. And in the first half, it wasn't great, to be honest. I think we lack a cutting edge. We talked about why we're not creating. I just don't think we got players who can carry the ball forward, who can sort of like dribble, who can basically beat a man and can draw opposition defenders out of shape, and that's what we got. We got very safe passers in midfield. We got midfielders who basically are good in short spaces, but not good in long spaces. And I think if you haven't got that right combination in central midfield, you struggle to create. You need somebody, I think, in centre midfield who can drive from centre midfield forward. And the only person we've got in the team at the moment who can do it, in my opinion, is Saka. And he showed it today. And if ever there was an argument why we need to play him in these sort of positions where he can influence the play in that way, this was it. Because first half, I thought he sat very central, almost like in the hole, and Tierney was the one getting forward. But the moment they switched that over, as much as you talked about the change with Pepe coming on, I think the other key change for me was Saka being released more over on the other side to actually influence the play. And he can carry the ball. He's got pace and drive that no other player in our team's got. I think he offers us a cutting edge. And I think that remember this guy played on Thursday night, and he had as much energy today as you wouldn't have thought he played Thursday night. You know, he was sort of like I thought he was very influential second half. As much as Pepe came on, I think that influenced the game as well. I think you saw when Aubameyang went central, and we had our wingers in their natural positions. When they were playing in their more natural positions, we looked a better team. So it's almost like an argument at the moment for Aubameyang to get played down central, because Nketiah doesn't hold the ball up that well for me. I know And I know that's an argument you're going to have against Aubameyang. Aubameyang doesn't hold the ball up as well as Lacazette. But
do we have a striker that can hold the ball up, Graham? That's the problem at the moment. Lacazette's probably the best one.
I think Lacazette can do it. You know, when he's on his game, he's good at it, and he offers us that sort of focal point, that structure when he's on his game.
Yeah.
But he, you know, I just think that, you know, I think we need to get more out of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. We saw at Anfield how isolated he was. You know, having to do defensive work. When you've got a guy, an elite forward, do we really want him? I know Arteta sort of like sees him as someone who can cut in on his right foot from out left and sort of like he scores. The argument is he scores as many goals in that wide position as he does down the middle. But I think if you play him down the middle, you get then the wingers, the natural wingers like Pepe, or say even you can play Saka out wide. Now these are pacey players, you know, so and that offers us more. But just coming back to the issue, we struggle to create because we have our central midfields too safe. The midfield players do not pass the ball forward quickly enough. In the first half, we don't move the ball quickly through central midfield. It's too sideways. It's been an issue in the team for a long time. It's too safe. If you look at the heat maps after games, you'll see quite clearly how we're passing the ball when it's mainly sideways. So the idea when you've got three top forwards, guys, you need to get the ball forward quickly to these forwards, and we don't do that. We always start the game slowly. It's been an issue for a while, and I think it's almost like they play to a system in the first half. He almost like doesn't want to. He wants to play a certain way in the first half to build into the games. He doesn't want us being that expressive too quickly. But I think we need, I think sometimes that sends messages to the opposition. If you're not on your game straight away, the opposition sense it and growing confidence. I would like to see us start fast and basically sort of getting the ball forward to our forwards. The moment in the second half, we played quicker in the second half. We got over 2 goals. I'll give a shout out also to Hector Bellerin, who I defended on a podcast last week. I think Hector Bellerin had a good game today on that right-hand side. And he was another one. He was driving the team forward in that period. We had a 15-20 minute good period, didn't we, when we got our goals? But I have to say, apart from that, it wasn't what I'd call a great performance. We got the job done. We got the 3 points. That's the main thing. But there's so much at the moment in this team that's sort of like you can see, sort of like we haven't got a cutting edge. We haven't got a lot of flair on the side, and this is why we need these 2 central midfielders. And if we're going to get one of them, if we're not going to get either of them, obviously that's going to be a big blow. Another shout out today, I thought, before you go on, guys, to Gabriel. I thought Gabriel,
he played well.
Brilliant. Yeah,
he was. Sheffield United are a threat from set plays and from crosses, and he won 6 out of his 7 duels today. His passing wasn't as crisp as it had been in previous games, but I thought he coped with their aerial threat quite well today. But in the end, all that matters at the end of the day is we got the 3 points, isn't it?
Exactly. Shaheen, I want to come second. There's a few here in the chat group. Old School Gooner. Hello, mate. Good to see you. You haven't missed us this time around. Springer, boing, boing. How you doing? There's a few of you. So we will get to all of you guys with your questions. I'm sure you got loads for us. And there's loads I want to ask you as well based on just what you've said. But Shaheen, what's your take on what you've seen today?
I have to agree with Graham. If I don't agree with Graham, that means I know nothing about football. But no, he's spot on in everything. I thought the substitution changed everything because suddenly when we moved Aubameyang up front, and then he started to involve everybody. I think it was Aubameyang who played Bellerin through, then crossed the ball for Saka to head through. And Bellerin also, as well, I agree, he had a good game, and it was him who actually put through Pepe for his second goal. But I do agree with Graham. It's always been an issue with us. We never seem to come out and go at teams from the get-go. You're always a bit slow to start with, and it was like this under Arsene Wenger as well. Sometimes there has been occasion where they come out and boom, they've gone for it in some big games. But I would like to see that more. I just got a question for Graham. Talking about Gabriel, why do you think, because this puzzles me, this one, right? Why do you think he didn't play against Liverpool? Because he looks, look, I was a bit unsure how this is going to turn out as a signing, right? But he's done okay since he's coming. I've seen him play a few times, and he looks, out of all of them, more of a central defender than the rest. And I was very surprised he didn't play against Liverpool, especially after today's performance.
Yeah, I mean, the official reason given by Arteta on the night, Shaheem, was basically that it was a big game, and he wanted, I think, just to give him a rest because he wanted experienced defence. So he's come into a new country. He's played a couple of games. He's done well at a good level, but it was a big game, and he wanted his more experienced defenders in there. That was his rationale. I think also it could have been something around the fact that when we'd set up in the previous games, Holding was playing on the right, Gabriel was playing in the middle, and Tierney was playing on the left. Well, Gabriel's left-footed, isn't it? So the moment he wants to bring David Luiz back in, David Luiz really wanted to play in the middle, and so he would have had to move Gabriel to the right, and he's left-footed. So that might have been a part of the reason. But I think Arteta put it down to the fact that against the top quality opponents who are light years ahead of us, he wanted an experienced back line. So that was the reason. But we saw when Gabriel played on Thursday night how good he was. He came back in, and he was excellent on Thursday night, and he was good again today. So look, I think it's just a case of him sort of like. I think with everything, when players come to a new country, managers like to ease them in. I suppose like Saliba didn't start straight away. I thought Saliba was going to start the first game, and the reason given straight away was he's a young boy who's just adapting to a new country. So that was the reason why he didn't play. So, and same with Gabriel. Remember, Gabriel hasn't played football for 6 months. He had 6 months off, injured before we signed him. So it was a case of probably not giving him too many games too quickly. And also thinking, didn't want to ruin him maybe against Liverpool's pacey wide players because, against Salah and Mane. I know that they would have been, if he played him on the right side, for example, Mane would have been isolated one-on-one with Mane in wide areas. Or maybe he thought that, Liverpool with their quality, he just thought he may be inexperienced. He might lack confidence against really top-class players. I don't know what his thinking was, but he did say that he played it safe, Graham.
Sorry, mate. Do you think he played it safe? Do you think he reverted back to the team that beat them towards the back end of last season? And he played himself, all these guys know how to set up against them, and went with that.
I think what he did was he played virtually the team that beat them in the Community Shield. The way he set up in that game, if you're talking about that game, in the game at Anfield, when you saw the team sheet, he picked a team to stay in the game. He didn't pick a team he wanted to beat. So what we got with him, in effect, was we were still in the game after 80 odd minutes, and I think that was the objective. So when he picked his most solid, experienced back line, and then he picked his most defensive midfielders who basically would in effect sort of offer a blanket in front of the back three. So he wanted to hold the game for a long period. The problem with that, of course, is the argument against that is if you're just sitting and you're not moving the ball quickly and you're not connecting with your front players, which we weren't, the ball just kept coming back. And basically, in the end, when you're under such intense pressure, and they were going back to that old Klopp high press, the German high press. I forget the name for it, what he called it now. I don't know if anyone knows the name for it. But they went back to that aggressive pressing where two players press the bloke on the ball, and then another bloke is pressing the guy who's about to receive the ball. So they have like 5 players in the pressing areas when you're playing out. And I think that game was crying out. The game was calling out for us against Liverpool to play more longer, to go longer over the top, because they were playing such a high line with Van Dijk up high. To try and get Aubameyang isolated one-on-one against one of their defenders, to push them back, because they were playing risk-free reward. Liverpool, everybody was up in our half, and we just kept pushing it downfield, and they just kept getting the ball back. So he picked a safe team, I think, similar team to the Community Shield. It worked in the Community Shield, but then Liverpool weren't at it in the Community Shield. It was a pre-season friendly.
Yeah, I know. I think they were ramping up, weren't they?
Yeah, and I think what they were looking at. I'll tell you one thing. I thought that we earned Liverpool's respect in that game, because if you watched all the lead-up quotes from Klopp, the comments after the game, he respected Arsenal. It's because he said he could see that the change in direction under Arteta, the club is growing and moving in the right direction. So what Klopp wanted to do was, having lost the game at the Emirates 2-1, albeit they already won the league, that you could argue they were on the beach, and then lost the Community Shield. It's almost like he wanted to make a statement in that game on Monday night. So he basically had his players, revved up, ready to go in that game, because he knew that he just wanted to send a message. Arsenal are the new team on the block. They're improving under Arteta, but they're a work in progress. We are the finished article, Liverpool, and we're going to prove it to you on Monday night. And that's what he did.
Perfect. Well, Graham, listen, I'm going to go into some of the technical stuff in a minute. There's a super chat here from Aaron Benjamin, mate, for your support. Keep watching, like, subscribe, turn your notifications on. We're going to have plenty of shows like this coming up. But there's a question for Graham. Do you think Arteta can get any more out of the current team? And what if we don't sign anyone?
That's a really good question,
Mr. Brooks.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. Go. That's what you're here for.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think he's getting the absolute most out of this team now. So if we don't, this to me feels like a real pivotal moment. In that, if he doesn't get backed, he can only do so much, right? He's been in for something like 35 games now. He's won 2 trophies in that time. He's improved the players he had. He's put a structure in place for the team. He's given the players belief. He's improved certain players. He's found a way of plugging the holes in the team with a system, so we're not conceding so many shots now. So there is progress being made. He can only do so much with this squad of players, and I think he's getting the maximum out of this team. He's taken this team, I think, as far as he can take it, and that is, this is not a top 4 team. This is a team that on the day could probably challenge for a cup, but it's not going to get back in the Champions League. And we all know that unless the team show the ambition and back this manager, and by that I mean the Cronkies and the board need to sort of do their part. But I just think this is the owners need to do more. The owners need to do more. We've got a top quality coach here, and they need to back him. And if they want us to get back in the Champions League, if they want us to be challenging for league titles in the next couple of years, they've got to back him in the transfer market, and they've got to get these. Hassan Mouar is his #1 target, and the fact that this has dragged on now for weeks, and it looks like now the player might be staying at Lyon. I mean, I'll wait and see till tomorrow night, because that Lyon president said the same thing with Lacazette 3 years ago, and then we got him. Right. So I wouldn't yet rule it out, but it's not looking likely. But that was his #1 target, right? And also, we all know we need a midfield enforcer like Partey to come into the team. That is another signing.
For years.
For years. Pardon?
We've needed that for years.
We did.
At the end of the day, we've never replaced it. We've had the likes of Gilberto after Vieira, for example, and people like that. We haven't replaced it for years. But Aaron, I hope you're happy with that explanation there. I've spot on, Graham, by the way. But there's a few things. And Shaheen, I haven't forgotten you, mate. I will come back to you. But look, there's a few things you mentioned, and I'll put this out to you as well, Shaheen. A few things you mentioned. I mean, what Arteta for me is doing with this squad, I can see clear signs of change as well. And I don't understand how some of the fan base do not see it. You've got to be a real footballing man to understand what's happening there, and we could see a massive difference. But what he's having to do at the moment is pretty much soak up pressure, try to soak up pressure, get bodies behind the ball, knowing that our strength lies in our front line and our pace that we have, and he's trying to utilise that. But what was evident in the Liverpool game, for example, is we didn't have, every time they came at us, even when we won the ball, with their high press that was really putting us under pressure. We have the midfielders with the quality to be able to make a decision quickly, to shift their feet, to take it on the half turn, a quick transition, to change defense into attack. There was no way of relieving that pressure, and eventually your defense is going to suffer. So we'll touch on what we can do with that and what happens with the transfers and all that sort of thing further down the line. But Shaheen, you heard what Graham said. I totally agree with what he's saying.
Yeah, I said this a few weeks ago.
He's got a point.
Yeah, I said this a few weeks ago as well. I said I don't know what else Arteta needs to do to get back If you're owner of a club, you've got a manager who's just won you the FA Cup. So, and you can see the difference. I mean, anybody can see the difference. All you got to do is just look at Arsenal against Liverpool. That just not a few games ago, the last game, we were more structured. The fact that Klopp has come out and said, "Well, this is not the Arsenal of the old that used to come here and then there was 4 or 5 nils." It shows that the guy has changed things. So, as an owner of a club or as a board of director of a club, you think, right, we need to go all out to back this guy, because this is the guy who can get us back into the Champions League. Then the more revenue will start coming to the club because we're in Champions League. Then it will be where we need to be financially, football-wise, everything. But somehow, you can go back to last summer and you can question almost all the signings. Saliba, we spend all of that money for him. They're talking about him going on loan again. I understand he's a young kid. I never thought that he's going to come in and he's going to make a difference to the defense straight away because he's a teenager. But could that money not have been spent on maybe a more established centre-back, like a Gabriel type, who would have come in and made a contribution straight away? Because we spent £70 million on Pepe. We spent on David Luiz, Saliba, Gabriel. We spent well on Tini. But if you look more or less, this is the same team as last year. Apart from, if you look at Liverpool game, this is the same team as last year. And I don't know why they're not, you're talking about a difference of £10 million. If this is the guy that your manager wants, right, then pay the £10 million. It's not like our owner is short of a few bob or anything like that. He can go out there and he can put the money and back this guy.Ok at Chelsea. This is how you back a manager, right? Who do you want? You go out there, you pay. I would not be surprised if Chelsea didn't all of a sudden go, right, let's go pay the release clause of Partey. How much salary you want? Right, cool, 200,000, here's 200,000, here's the release clause. Next thing you know, he's going to be playing for Chelsea and all us Arsenal fans are going to be thinking, this is another one who got away. And this baffles me. It does baffle me. How you cannot, transfer window is 2 parts, incoming, outgoings. And we're not doing good on either side. Sometimes you can argue, people are not coming in, but people are going out, that's all right. But right now, on both fronts, we're not doing what we need to be doing. And you've got to ask questions. Who's responsible for all of this? This is really frustrating.
Hold the transfer stuff for a minute, yeah. We're gonna touch on that in a bit more detail. But what I was hearing from Graham, and these are the things that are flagging up for me, right? For example, everything has a knock-on effect based on the personnel you have in that side. So we've got a super forward line. Let's face it, there's a lot of teams in the top 4 would love Aubameyang, would love maybe Lacazette, Saka when he plays in the front 3, Pepe. The problem I have is this. Pepe, for example, getting a lot of stick at the moment, right? He's not doing it. We've given him 72. We've paid 72 million. All right, it's not his fault what we paid for him. But the thing is, I feel passionately about this. I used to play on the wing. Wingers rely on service. You also need to understand how a player plays to get the best out of him and unlock him. And as you know, in the previous shows, I've been harping on about the same thing here. For example, Graham was touching on our central midfield pairing. You've got Xhaka when he plays. You've got El Neni, very sidewaysy type players, or Xhaka sometimes hits the long ball every now and then, one gets through. So Ceballos is probably the most accomplished sort of ball-playing midfielder we have outside of the likes of your Sakas of this world right now. But when you look at it, and I've noticed this over the last few weeks, Pepe, he makes runs. The runs he makes are in behind. We're not picking that ball out early enough. We go side to side, he makes his run, he comes back. Side to side, makes his run, comes back because he's receiving it early enough. Then when he does receive it, he's got 2 men on him. Now, it was the last game against who was the last game we played? And Pepe started. It was the Carabao Cup game, right? He was played through a couple of times. He made some runs and we nearly scored, and Nketiah should have hit it first time. Today, again, he comes on, he's run down the line, didn't have to beat him, man. It was a slip ball through, and he's running at pace. Before you know it, he's in the box. That's where the danger is. You want him in the box at full flight because no one wants to stick a foot out in case they foul him. And that's why he scored that goal today. So, I mean, Graham, based on what I'm saying, I mean, we had a similar situation with Aubameyang a few months ago till Tierney came in and started realising that Aubameyang was making these runs through and he started knocking them over the top and suddenly we were getting goals that way. Do you feel we're not getting the best out of the likes of Pepe, for example, because we don't have a Hwassim Or type player who can think quickly, see things quickly, and because we don't have a Partey who can go from defence and suddenly transition us into attack on a breakaway that gets the best out of these types of players?
In a nutshell, in an answer, yes. we need we desperately need somebody like a Hwassim Or, a midfielder who basically can take the ball, drive forward, and he's also got technical quality to slide these players in as they make their runs, as you say. Yeah, and I think we're not hitting the likes of Pepe and Aubameyang early enough. 100% right. And even if Saka plays there, we're not sort of like getting the ball quickly forward to these players so that defences are not set when they get the ball, and we're knocking it sideways too much. It's too safe all the time, and by the time players taking too many touches in central midfield, and that allows teams to get back in their shape. And I think also we just lack a person with that sort of ability. So, for example, as I said to you, like Ceballos is a very good technical small space player. He can jink from foot to foot. He can thread a ball through. When he came on at Anfield, he did find one or two good passes in the second half, but I think the whole game had changed in the second half when he played those balls through for Laka. I don't think he would have probably had the space in the second half in the first half had he been playing then. The point I'm trying to make, he's very good in build-up, a good technical player, but he's not very quick. He's not very good at recovery runs. He's not very quick at running past people. So he's not pacey. So you need someone who is technically good and someone who's got pace. And that is what Hwassim Or offers. And also he gets back and defends well. When he was playing for Lyon last year, his recovery runs were up there at the top of the French league. So he's got very much an all-round game. He's the perfect midfielder. If we had that midfielder, Arteta could flip to a 4-3-3. The reason you talked about earlier in your show about sort of like why we play the way we are is because when he plays the back four and he goes to a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, we are too open and we get transitioned through too easily and teams get lots of shots at our goal. So he's recognised that and he's plugging holes by going to the back three with wing backs, which offers us more solidity and structure. But it does mean it's at the cost of being able of flair, of being able to open teams up, because you play two centre midfielders like Xhaka and Ceballos, or Elneny and Xhaka, or Ceballos and Elneny. That combination is they're technical players, good in small spaces, but they're not pacey, they're not physical, they're not powerful, they're not like Partey, they're not people who can transition from defence into attack at speed like he can. So that's where the team is lacking at the moment for me, and that's why I think Arteta's identified that. That's why he wants at least one of these two, if not both these midfielders. They would offer us a different dimension. They would give us what we desperately need. Then we would have the tools to play in the likes of Pepe, Aubameyang, Saka, Nketiah, Lacazette, whoever we got up front, because they would get the ball forward quickly to them, or they would drive forward, take players out the game and open up spaces for these players, and then they would slide in the right ball to get somebody on the end of it. And these are forwards at the moment. Aubameyang at Anfield, apart from that situation right at the end of the game, he barely had a touch in the game. He was just defending all the time. So this for me is where the team's lacking, and this is in answer to your question, why we need some attacking midfielder with a bit of drive, somebody, and maybe if we can't get someone, we're going to have to switch Saka into that position. On the evidence of today, the way Saka Saka today, on the evidence of the way Saka played today, he has to start every week. For me, he either starts on the left wing, or if not on the left wing, he starts in an attacking role in front of the back, in a forward role in some way where he can get on the ball and drive forward and get the ball quickly into dangerous areas. He's got the flair, because there's not a lot of flair in this team at the moment.
Crazy. No, and the other thing is, sorry, Shaheen, you can come in a sec. the other thing is the second phase of runs. So when we're attacking and we put a ball in, obviously the centre backs running with the centre forwards to mark them. We don't have midfielders coming in late to maybe get that ball that's on the edge of the box, like a Lampard used to, or to some extent a Ramsey used to. Lundberg was great at it back in the day. So we haven't
got like a third. We haven't got like a third man running midfielder. Ramsey was like a number 8. If you look at Jack and Sir Bias's, I mean, Sir Bias can play 8. Sir Bias could even possibly play 10, but he plays more as a number 6. So Xhaka plays as a number 6. So you got like 2 number 6 sitting in the middle of the midfield. Now Nenny's like a number 6. So Ramsey was a number 8. He was a disruptor, somebody who would run late. The one thing about Aaron Ramsey, unfortunately for Ramsey, I didn't think when we under Wenger, when Ramsey sometimes played in a 2 in midfield, which meant that we ruined Aaron Ramsey because that's why I think he had all those injuries, because he had to do so much running back. And I just think his body gave up on him at times because of the workload that we gave him. But in a 3, as a number 8 with two number 6s behind him, Ramsey arriving late in the box as a disruptor, he's not only somebody who could sort of like take defenders away, he's a goal scorer. And we haven't got any goal scoring midfielders, have we? You look at our goal scoring midfielders. That's what we lack. And just coming back finally on Pepe, you make some really good points about Pepe. 100% agree with you on Pepe. I thought he was good when he came on today. But the thing is, I would like to see, when he played in France, he was somebody who had a fullback running on his outside, so he was able to run inside between the fullback and the centre half. There was space created for him. Or he picked the ball up in the middle and he drove at the centre of the defence. So he's somebody really, instead of having chalk on his boots out wide, I would like to see him play slightly inside, almost like an inverted forward, or playing off Aubameyang, because that's where his strength is, sort of, and that's where you get all the time he's stuck out wide and we're not giving the ball to him quickly, early, like you say. By the time he gets the ball, there's defenders, they're loading up on him and it's just impossible. So he is very left-footed and he's jinking inside, but often he just takes the safe option because there's no opening. Whereas if he was, I think, slightly inside, getting the ball quicker, he could run with the ball. If it was played ahead of him, he could run onto the ball, and he would give defences a lot of problems, I think. But we're not, I think, getting the best out of him.
100%. Shaheen, what do you think? You've heard everything. And in a minute, I'd like to go through the chats. So please, keep your questions coming. I know you've got some questions for Graham. We'll go through the chats in a minute. You've heard what Graham's saying. You've heard my opinion about Pepe over the last few shows, and some of the guests in here would have heard it too. What are you thinking?
No, I absolutely agree. Every time Pepe has come to life, it's been situations like this, like the goal today, the goal against West Ham, if you recall. It was, again, another ball that was played through. He has run out, and as you said, because he's pacey, he's got about trickery, defenders are very wary of touching him, and then he does have a good shot on him, and he scores the goals. Going back to the Asim Ola signings, if that doesn't come through, which is very likely, wouldn't this is just a thought. Could we not use Ozil in that?
Nervous.
Yeah.
He said the word Ozil.
Ozil. That's a nervy thing. Could we not use Ozil in that role? I know he doesn't do a lot of running around in that, but we've got a player that we're paying him a lot of money for. We can at least utilize him to such, because one thing with him, you can't deny his vision, his creativity. He can pick a ball. And I'm convinced there's a lot more to it than him just not fitting in a formation. But I thought if it doesn't come through, that Asim Ola, why don't we use the player we already have in the team? I don't know what your thoughts on that, Graham.
Do you think he has the energy for that, Graham?
I just think that look, I love Mesut Ozil, a player. I'm so proud and privileged to have watched him at Arsenal for years. And when he came to our club at the time we hadn't won a trophy for 9 years. We won 3 FA Cups in his first 4 years he was here. And he, for 3 or 4 years, he was a top player. And he's still a good player. But I think it's clear to me that Arteta wants to move in a different direction. I think they've been trying to move him out, but nobody. The trouble you got with Ozil is his wages, and he likes London, so he wants to. He's saying basically, I want to stay and fight for my place, but he knows that I don't think he's in Arteta's plans, and I think that he basically is just, he's entitled to stay for the duration of his contract. We gave him the contract. I thought it was a bad contract at the time. I said that on Arsenal Fan TV at the time. I can remember saying it. We gave it to him simply because we lost him. Well, no, we gave it to him because the reason why we gave it to him, that sort of money, I'm not saying I wanted him to stay, but to offer him that amount of money was ridiculous.
It was desperation.
Yeah, the reason we gave it to him was because we lost Sanchez, and to lose, having lost Sanchez, it was like to pacify the fans, to keep Ozil at all costs. I think, unfortunately, I thought he would play in the Carabao Cup games. I honestly thought that he would use him this season to give players a break. Yeah. But it's clear to me that Arteta is not going to use him. If he's not going to use him in the Carabao Cup, he's not going to use him, is he? And I think he's going into this last year of his contract, and he's just basically running down his contract, because I just don't see, I think Arteta wants to move on now without him. That's clear.
Okay, so look, obviously we're going to go into things a little bit more in a second. Please please subscribe, turn your notifications on, and tell your friends about this. We're going to be doing a lot more of this sort of stuff. Look, I'm looking at this now, and I'm thinking, okay, so if we don't get Huasimor, and if we don't get Partey, what else are we going to do? Is he going to work with what we have, or is he going to go out and he's going to look for somebody else? We'll touch on that in a second. But there's a few things that I'd like to ask you, Graham, while I've got you on here, and understand, and maybe for the viewers at home as well, understand what's happening. So just bear with me on this. Shaheen, if we quickly run through some of the chats, I've got a nice little question for Graham next. So let's see, involve some of the guys in here. I don't want to leave them out.
Yeah, I thought I'm reading this wrong in the chats, but Villa are beating Liverpool 4-1.
What?
Yeah, I thought I was reading this wrong.
It's a crazy old. It's a crazy. Yeah, crazy season. It's already crazy. Like, it doesn't matter if you're spending money. But let's go through some of the chats and see, because I know some people want to ask questions to Graham as well. YN0T Sentiment FC is in the house. Nice to see you. I'm not worried about Saliba on loan. Mum passed really young, makes sense, but we always need more CBs. Yeah, ours are horrendous, a disgrace. Okay. Who else have we got? Lee O'Hagan. Board says self-sustaining, so no chance Stan putting his hand in his pocket. Not unless he's taken out his wig. Next, we've got Old School Gooner. Finally, mate, you're back in. The forward players we have should petrify defenders when they see the lineup, but they know we ain't going any. We ain't got any way to supply them with quality balls. Yeah, it's almost like we've got some top guns with no bullets. There's a few there. I've seen you, Beast, as well. Don't think I haven't seen you. So, Graham, this was the question I was going to give you, right? So, at the end of the day, we have this system that Arteta's playing at the moment. We have a world-class striker. Let's be honest here. He's a world-class striker. He's done it everywhere he's been. His stats don't lie. It's nothing new. He's probably one of the best, if not the best striker, out-and-out striker in the Premier League. What is the thoughts of putting someone like Aubameyang out wide on the left and using the likes of Nketiah, who, if you want to really nitpick, he wasn't even starting at Leeds, right? Bielsa wasn't starting him. So what is going on? What's the thought behind this? I want to understand it from a technical perspective. Why are we using the likes of Aubameyang on the left instead of in the middle? Does he not? We have wingers. That's one thing. We do have an abundance of wingers. So why is Aubameyang being played on the left and not down the middle?
Well, for the simple reason, I think that his goal scoring record, first of all, on the left, is just as good as his goal scoring record down the middle. So I think Aubameyang is someone who I think when you say he plays on the left, he frequently drifts down. He comes inside anyway, into the middle anyway. A lot of the time, he's looking to get inside onto his right foot. So those 2 points.
A bit like Henry used to.
Yeah, a bit like Henry. So the modern day football forwards sort of like are very fluid in their movement. They're not just, you might see him as someone playing on the left, but his actual movement sometimes takes him inside, and so he in effect he's playing down the middle a lot of the times anyway. So that's part of it. But the problem I got with it is that by playing him down the middle, you can then get players more natural wingers in those spaces. So he's down the middle, and then you could have Pepe on one side, or William on the other, or Saka on the other, whoever you want to play, or one of our wide players in their natural positions. Yeah. So, but in answer to the question, his goal scoring record out wide is just as good. In when he plays wide left as he is down the middle. That's one reason. I think that Arteta sort of like likes him there, and so did the previous manager. So I can't say it much clearer than that really. I think it's a case of maybe Aubameyang doesn't mind playing now. You have to wonder what sort of conversations go on the training ground between the manager and his captain.
Yeah.
But
well, look,
but I think the modern day football, I think the main point really is modern day football players are so interchangeable. And even in Arteta's system, our players frequently change positions in the shape. And a bit like Aubameyang, he frequently comes central anyway. That's almost like a starting position. But obviously defensively, that's my argument against it. Defensively, he has to get back out there to cover the wing back or the full back. And you saw it in the week when he was having to cut off. He was working hard to cut off balls from the centre back to Alexander-Arnold on the right side. So he was having to do so much defensive work. And then when they were dropping an extra central midfield player next to Fabinho to receive the ball, then he had to think about, was he coming inside because Laka was a 2v1 in the middle, or did he stay covering Alexander-Arnold? So when you're doing all that sort of work, you get into a defensive mindset. So when we did have the ball, the frequent times we do get the ball, it's sometimes hard to just flick back onto an attacking sense of what you should be doing when you're on the ball. So for me, though, the argument's always been, well, he can't play down the middle because he can't hold the ball up in English football. But he's played down the middle before for Dortmund with great success. He's played down the middle wherever he's been. So I think he can play either position. And I think for me, if it means that with him down the middle, you get more natural players out wide, that can create for him, because at Dortmund he thrived with pacey players out wide around him like Marcus Royce and Dembele. I think he'd be better for us, but the argument is he's just as effective out wide as he is down the middle in his goal scoring record. That's why you can almost, the argument is, well, because the argument's going to be, if he plays down the middle he's going to get more goals, and you look at when he plays out wide, he gets just as many goals playing out wide, so that throws that argument out the window. But
see, the problem I have with that, Graham, though, I mean, you mentioned that, right, with the wingers at Dortmund, right? The problem I have, I mean, as a winger, the thing that used to bug me the most is when a striker comes and takes your space, because you want to run into that gap, you want to run into that space. But if a striker comes out there, either a defender goes out with him or he's in your way, right?
Yeah, but what normally, no, I was going to say what normally happens is the Lacazette or the forward normally pulls a centre half out from the middle. That creates the space for him to run into. So that's
there's a super chat here, Graham. So let me. I've kept Aaron Benjamin waiting. So super chat.
Thank you,
Aaron. Aaron's splashing the cash today. So why have we sold Martinez for such a low price? Where is that money going? I love the debate between Lavandra and Graham. So insightful. Please bring Graham again. Well, we'll see if Graham will come back. We'll touch on that question in a second. You can answer that question in a second. What I was going to say, Graham, very quickly is the problem I have though with these new sort of should we say this new thought of having wingers that now they want them to cut in rather than go on the outside. So they'll play a left footer on the right and a right footer on the left, and the idea is they cut in to shoot. But then what that does, in my opinion, take away is the ability for that winger to go around the outside of that fullback, whacking the ball early, and then someone like Aubameyang being in the middle, surely he would get more service from naturally sort of right-footed or left-footed wingers, not having to come back on their sort of natural side, shall we say? Do you not think that's true at all?
I think what it boils down to the way the modern game's changed. The modern game, back in my day, I'm older than you. I go back to the 1970s. I started supporting Arsenal in the 1970s. And then football was all about wingers beating their man, getting a crossing. Now I think football is more about inverted wingers or wide forwards. They're almost like wide forwards now, and playing in the half space between the fullback and the centre half. And that's where the modern game's gone now. So, but I agree with you. I think there's a lot to be said because what happens first of all, when that wide forward plays in the half space, the fullback gets up and tries to get on the outside, so it creates the space for the fullback on the outside. That's more the game. But in the past, it's always been about I used to love when I first went to football. My heroes were like wingers who basically one-on-one against the fullback and trying to get past him to get the crossing. So but
like an Overmars or something round the outside. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
So I just think the game's changed a little bit now. I'm not saying that's the way the modern game is, but what's your question again? You were saying about sort of like about wingers.
Yeah, this is that was my question. I mean, if we had Aubameyang central and you had natural wingers on the natural right side or left side, would they not be more inclined to beat that man? You don't always have to dribble past 2 or 3 players or do some trick. All you need sometimes is just to create a little space a little yard, and just whack it in, just cross it in early. Sometimes you use the fullback as a shield to whip that ball round early, right? As the strikers are coming in. We're not doing that, and we've been like this for years at Arsenal. We've had number 10s playing out wide, coming in. So it takes away that quick transition. You want a breakaway, and instead of the guy being naturally getting around the fullback, he's having to cut back, play it back inside, then it goes back into another midfielder, and it goes back to the other side. And we were doing this for season upon season. So I think for me, there's a big case if you've got a top striker, there's a big case that we're going back to the original wingers that can get around the outside, whip a ball in early. That's where I was going with it.
I don't disagree with. I think that's a fair point you make. The only thing is, I'll go back to what I said before. You talk about the areas being crowded. The idea of the wide forward playing in inverted space, it's up to the centre forward to actually drag the centre half out to create that space, and also it's up to other players in the team to move players around. It's all about creating space for these wide forwards to move into. And I think, for example, we do it quite well. To get Aubameyang in a lot of the time, we actually sort of we switch play quite a lot, quite nicely. Lacazette's always the focal point involved in that. But what Lacazette also does, what Nketiah does sometimes, is they're coming short, which creates the space behind them for the wide forward to have more space in that area that you talked about to run into the box. But it's a fair point. It just depends whether you want to get the ball out wide quickly and get crosses into the box. You've got to remember, we haven't got a Giroud in the middle of the box anymore. When we had a Giroud there, you talked about in the past, you could knock the ball in early for a Giroud, couldn't you? We haven't got tall players in the middle of the box. So Lacazette's not exactly tall, is he? So if you had a winger on the outside, I think it's all right if you've got a big 6'2" centre forward, but we haven't got that sort of player at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
just
go on, Shaheen.
1 second left before you go. I think going back to what Aaron said, we actually we started the show on time, but it was a bit of a scare for me and Lev just before we start off, which I won't go into. But this show is actually called Sunday Surgery with Graham Brooks, and we hope to have Graham on Sundays going forward, which we actually. The show name is actually having a surgery on the Arsenal, finding out the problems, because what has happened, the tactics, what was right, what was wrong, and we hope to have this on every Sunday. There's another question as well for Graham. I'll put it on Lev if you can read out for him.
Go ahead. So Graham, this is coming from YN.
Do you want first of all? Do you want me to answer? Listen, I'm sorry to interrupt, boys. Do you want me to answer that? Yeah. You've got a super chat donation in there. Do you want me to answer that question? The guys, obviously.
Yeah, go on.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the question is, can you just read it out again about Martinez?
Yeah. Why have we sold Martinez? The reason I held off on answering the question is because I want to go towards the transfers, and this leads into that perfectly. So now we're going to do that. So Aaron Benjamin, why have we sold Martinez for such a low price? Where is that money going? I love the debate between Lavandra and Graham. So insightful. Please bring Graham in again, and we will do. So, Graham,
Well,
go ahead.
I'll
Give
try
Aaron
and come on.
your insight.
I'll try and come on as many Sundays as I can. I've already said to you guys, I'll try and come on as many Sundays.
You're welcome.
Look, in answer to the question, I thought we got a reasonable fee for Martinez, £20 million. If a year ago we probably wouldn't have got, we'd have probably only got about 3 or 4 million for him. So I thought the fee was reasonable. But the question then is, I'm just sad that he went because he's a top goalkeeper and I didn't want to lose him. But the trouble is, and I did say this to Robbie Lowe on Arsenal Fan TV last year, we had a bit of an argument about it. When he said, "Well, who's going to play in goal now then?" And I said, "Well, at the moment, Martinez has to stay in goal. He's the man in possession. But we're not going to hang on to these two guys." I said to him, "Next season, both these goalkeepers are going to want to be our number one." And he said, "No, they can both stay and fight for their place." I said, "Well, Leno has had an outstanding season. He is the number one. You've got to give him that respect. Martinez has proved in 10 games he's good enough to be the number one. So one of them is going to be on the bench next year and be told they're not the number one. And they're going to want assurances who the number one is." The moment Arteta made his choice, and I thought Leno, to be fair, Leno was outstanding last year and he was the number one. The moment he picked Leno, that was it for Martinez because he couldn't give Martinez the assurances. Martinez wants to play international football for Argentina. I understand that. He's at that time of his career where he wants to play regular football. And we couldn't give him that sort of like guarantee that he'd be a number one week in, week out. So did we get enough money for him? In answer to the guy's Super Jack question, I thought we did get enough money for him. The money's been reinvested, obviously, into a younger goalkeeper who's obviously not nowhere near the level he was. And I haven't seen anything of him to make an opinion. Runarsson, whatever his name is. Icelandic, I think he is. Yeah. So we've got that money, and I rather hoped that money would go towards getting reinvested into the team, into central midfield. I thought that money, if we could get one or two of these other players off our books, unfortunately we can't seem to. But the money from the Martinez sale, plus hopefully, sort of like, I know he's been trying to sell Torreira, or we can't get rid of, Kolasinac, Torreira, and Martinez would virtually be enough money to pay for one of those central midfielders, but it doesn't seem to have happened, does it? But that's the answer to the question. The guy obviously thinks we should have got more money for Martinez. I think 20 million for him was probably a fair price, in my opinion.
I think it's 16 million plus 4 million add-on.
Pardon?
See, I agree with Graham on that. I agree with Graham on that. I'll tell you what, right, guys. Look, had Leno not got injured and Martinez come in that sort of back end of that season, he wouldn't have been worth more than a couple of mil. Agreed, right? The fact that happened actually added value to Martinez, and there's no guarantee that he's going to be like that the entire season. I think where the question mark lies is, I thought we're selling this guy because we're going to reinvest and go and get Partey and Huasimor, and this is where we're going to start getting to the nitty gritty. Tyrone Power, I've seen what you've asked. Should Arsenal sign Zaha? Potential to be a great player if he joins. These are the transfer areas we were going to get into. So, guys, Huasimor, Partey, right? We were all looking at that and thinking that's what we need. Arteta has clearly identified that, and this is why I believe in this coach. He has made it very clear what he thinks is lacking from this team. He's got the best out of it. I don't understand fans that are going crazy saying get him out or he's not experienced enough and blaming the team. For me, the problem's not with manager and this current team. It's not their fault that they've been signed and how much they've been signed for. The problem lies with at board level. There's teams like Everton that have come in now. They've bought. I've seen. I hate to say this. I've seen Daniel Levy how hands-on he is with Spurs. And I was quite impressed with him. The board for me is where we are letting the team and the management down. So if Huasimor and Partey do not happen or don't happen, how do we improve this team and with who? Zaha is one. There's a few others. Where else can we go? I mean, the other names that's been mentioned is Boubakary Soumare instead of Partey. So, I mean, Shaheen, I'll throw this at you, and then Graham, we can throw this at you as well. If we don't get these two, who else can we get that will give us what we're missing in that midfield currently? Hey.
Well, to be honest with you, the honest answer to that is I don't trust these guys to go out and make the right signing. I mean, the fact that we're being linked with Jorginho, we're keeping El Neni, but we're loaning out Torreira, not even selling him, loaning him out. I don't think there's an obligation to buy. It doesn't make sense to me. You've got a player that can potentially do a job. I understand there's an element of Torreira being unsettled, but this is a business, it's a football club. You can't be trying to improve a position, and then you've got a player in that position who's done okay whenever he's coming, and then you're loaning him out, not even selling him. On the other hand, you're crying out for money. We don't have money to go spend on Partey and Asimora, and it's just it feels like a comedy show. Not a lot of things make sense, and I don't get it. Maybe it's me. Maybe I lack football knowledge, but it doesn't make sense to me. You're crying out for a defensive midfielder. You're loaning out Torreira. You're getting Nick to Jorginho. You need other players, but it's not addressed. The manager that has just won you something needs to be backed with a player that he wants, but we don't spend the money on it. And the players that we can sell to raise funds. For example, Guendouzi, Torreira. These are the guys who've got a bit of time on their contract and we can get some money for them. We're not selling them. Mustafi, Socrates, they've got a year left on the contract. You're probably not going to get a lot for them. So this is my take on it. And if they don't sign anybody by tomorrow night, I think it's going to be a big problem. In a way, they're actually quite lucky that fans are not allowed in the stadium, because I can tell you it would be a very, very hostile place, the Emirates. So that's my view on it. There's a lot of questions and things here for Graham as well. Yeah, we need to go through them. And Liverpool are losing 5-1 now.
5-1.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it is away, isn't it? At a Villa, isn't it? But
I
no, it's not Martinez. It's not because they've got Martinez, by the way.
No, I think you've seen today that all the weak teams are winning. I mean, Tottenham have won as well today.
Yes, love that.
Yeah.
Love that, Graham. Any bit of slating of those boys down the road is more than welcome. Okay, so Graham, who else can we get? I mean, someone's mentioning Zaha here. I mean, I personally like Zaha. I think he causes a lot of problems. You can play him down the middle if you want to. You can play him out wide. He's great one-on-one. He's physical. But for me, the main problem for me that needs addressing is that screening in front of the back four. Every time a team, or back five, every time a team attacks us on the break, they're running straight at the heart of our defense. They're not got an issue with anyone covering or screening. So for me, Partey was massively important. Hwassimore, yes, but maybe you could have argued the case we can get away with someone like you were saying, Saka or Pepe, or even Willian could maybe play there. But
yeah, I agree.
The people that play for me is that midfield.
Yeah, I think Partey is the more needed. Yeah, I just think Partey is the player is the more needed. That midfield enforcer, somebody's going to protect the back four. They've been crying out for a player like that for years, as you said at the start of your show. So he's the more needed player. Hassan Mawar obviously gives us more attacking flair, but you are right. We could possibly shift Saka there, or maybe move Pepe there. So we have got players who can play there. I just think he offers a different dimension, Hassan Mawar. But you are right. Partey's the one we need. Who are we going to get in their place? I think we're running out of time. I really don't know. I mean, I don't want to get Jorginho. No, definitely not Jorginho. Not for me.
Well, why not? What's your thoughts on that? I agree with you. I don't want Jorginho either. But why don't you want him in? Because you probably give more details why than me.
Well, simply because he's another number 6, isn't he? He's got no pace. He's got no pace. He's no legs. He's somebody. He's very slow. Right, and look. I just don't rate him. He's okay.
Is he any better than Xhaka, Graham?
He's another Xhaka, isn't he? I think Xhaka's better than him.
Yeah, I agree with you. So,
right.
And you know what? Now it's going to the. See, this is what I said this on the show about a week and a half ago, I think. My concern was that we would leave this so late that even when we go to someone like Atletico and say, right, you know what, we'll pay the release cost, they will turn around and say, you know what, it's too late now, we can't replace him. We're not going to have time to find a replacement.
Hold on, Arteta's come out today. Shaheen. I've just seen the interview. So, they're confident they're going to get someone or get their guys. I don't know how. is there a bit of smoke screen and daggers going on in the background?
Look, I wouldn't put it past Arsenal to go and get Jorginho. I would not be surprised at all.
We were talking about this, that could happen.
Yeah. Or another player
I think we just need to wait and see tomorrow night. The devil will be in the detail tomorrow night. There's going to be a meltdown on Twitter tomorrow night, though, if we don't get anyone. I know that. But who are we going to get? They're being linked with Jorginho. They're being linked with Diawara, the guy who plays in Roma. Zaha.
Bit injury prone, no? Diawara?
Yeah, he is, yeah. But look, for me, Partey and Hassan Mawar are the two that Arteta wanted. We identified them early. I can remember Man United, Alex Ferguson always used to get his business done early. Get the business done early. We flapped around as usual. It's all about money. We haven't got money, unfortunately. That's the problem. COVID isn't helping. I think we have to respect that. In fact, we haven't got fans in stadiums. We're not flushed with money like, say, Chelsea had the Hazard money and and so they spent massively. But we haven't got a lot of money, but we couldn't get the deals. We couldn't let the players out of the door. That goes back to the Ivan Gazidis era. Too many crap players on massive wages, and they don't want to leave. They want to stay and fight for their place, which means I want to stay on the big wages. It's not they want to stay and fight for their place. They know they're on massive wages at Arsenal, and we can't get rid of them. And we've done bad business in the past. We bought badly. We give them poor contracts, and it's coming back to bite us in the arse. And unfortunately, it's affecting this manager. That's the thing that's really pissed me off about it. We finally got the right manager in place with the right ideas, and he's being hampered by the fact he can't get the players. Because if he had the tools, the structure that he's put in place already, he's understanding the game. Within a couple of years, I can see if we got those players, I can see us challenging for the title. I'm not saying we're going to win it, but we would get back in the top four with those two players, and within a couple of years we could even be challenging for a title. So this is the thing. It feels like a big moment, this, and if we don't pull it off, it's going to be a massive letdown, I tell you.
We keep missing moments like this. We're always just within a couple of players of maybe getting to that level, and this has been going on for season upon season. And you're 100% right with what you just said. I mean, I don't understand our fans, and I'll say this to our fans, I don't understand the fans giving Arteta stick or giving the players stick on the field, because these guys have inherited this situation. Arteta has inherited this situation. He shouldn't be inheriting the backlash that comes with it. You're undermining everything he's trying to do, in my opinion. If you've got a problem, go to the board. It's definitely the Ivan Gazidis issue. But look, let's look at some of these chats. Old school Gooner, I haven't missed you, mate. I got you. Graham, what do you think about Sumar, how do you want to pronounce it? He reminds me of a very young Vieira and would like to see him come in with Partey I don't think we're going to have him and Partey. It would have to be probably one or the other. What's your thoughts on that question, Graham?
Graham.
I think he's frozen. Graham's frozen for a minute, or maybe it was a really tough question, old school Gooner, and he's just mulling it over. He'll be back in a second, I'm sure. Why not Sentiment FC? I got you now. Why not Sentiment FC? I won't be calling you that from now on.
I just want to make a point. Going back on to what Graham was saying in terms of regarding Mikel Arteta. If we don't back him, if we don't back this guy, somebody else will come and back his vision. Yeah. If we don't back him now, next year, a Barcelona type club or somebody comes in with a bit of money, come in, we'll back you, we'll give you the money, let's go. Why would he stick around? Why is he going to stick around when somebody else is quite happy to back his vision? And there's another argument, because Mikel Arteta put his neck out last time around against Villa when the plane went up, and he said, "These guys back me." And this is, I highly doubt that he will do this. But if he's not backed, and if he's being used as a shield, there's an argument I was reading on Twitter that he should walk.
I don't think he would do that. Though. I don't. Look, he's got ego. You can see he's got ego.
I understand, but you're not. You know how much more he's going to get out of these guys, and he's not being backed by the owner.
Yeah. Well, look, my problem with everything that's going on and this transfer stuff. I mean, Like, we were trying to be positive about it, and it's the same at the moment. It looks like the same repetitive transfer window where we promised so much at the beginning and delivered not enough. I mean, Gabriel's a great signing. Don't get me wrong, right? I'm really happy we bought him, but we haven't addressed the main areas, that midfield. Now, my problem is this: the reason these guys have been getting away with it at the very top is because we, as a fan base, are too busy in bickering between ourselves. You've got the Wenger ins, Wenger outs. Now you've got back the manager, back the board, and then you've got another bunch saying no, it's going to be the same again. You've got certain Twitter accounts who are loving the negativity, and you've got the others who hate them for being so negative. So we've split and divided. So while we're divided as a base, those guys at top are getting away with it. The only way you're going to get change at the top is everyone unite as a fan base and agree that the problem lies at the very top, and then you might get some change. But as we stand right now, we're a bit of a joke as a fan base, divided. That's my opinion. If you've got any questions, hit us with it. 6-2 Villa. Bloody hell, are you kidding me? Do you know what? If you went to the betting office with these score lines today, you'd be a millionaire today. What else have we got? Any questions? Old school Gooner. I say Sumer because he's 22. Partey is 27, 28. I could see Sumer in that role for many years as a replacement. The question, good point, and I like him as well. The question is, do we have enough time? Has anything been going on in the background? We're in the last days here. It's going to go crazy. I think it's going to go. The fan base is going to go into like meltdown tomorrow if we don't sign the right person, and especially if we do the band-aid Jorginho.
Yeah,
go ahead, bro.
Listen, surely the board. I was watching a game today, and there was a shot on Vinay and Edu. Surely they know that this squad is not good enough, not to compete, even not even to challenge for top four. It's not good enough, and surely they can see. I mean, somebody like Edu, he's been a footballer. Surely he can see that his own position, central midfield, Arsenal are lacking. There's no defense. He played with people like Vieira, Bergkamps, Petit, Gilberto. So he knows this. He knows how important these sort of guys are. But somehow we're not going. I mean, look, this is real. If we don't spend money on any of these guys, heads needs to roll. Kroenke needs to come to London and ask questions of these guys of what is occurring here. What are you guys doing? You can't sell. You can't buy. What are you doing? Why are they getting paid for?
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, look, thank you. Why not Sentiment FC? Tap the like button, subscribe, turn your notifications on. I don't know what's happened to Graham. Maybe he's been pulled away by AFTV, but he's given us a lot of his time, and he will be coming back on Sundays as much as he can. Old school Gooner says, Lev, I can't see anyone coming in. I'm living in a dream world. Well, that sounds more like a nightmare to me, mate. Why not Sentiment FC? Thank you for telling me how to pronounce your name. I see it. It makes total sense. I don't know what I was thinking going YN0T. Makes no sense at all. Sorry, mate. Aken Ogbodo. Is Edu going to use his salary? Don't know. Guys, it's going to be a crazy day. Transfer window. It's the closing few hours coming up. What is going to happen? Has Arteta, come out today and told us the truth and saying there's things going on, and he's still confident they're going to make signings? Is the whole Wassim or Leon thing with the president Jean-Michel Oula, I think that's how you pronounce it? Is it all smokescreen? Is Wassim still coming? Are they trying to get a little bit extra out of us? Is there anything to do with the Real Madrid situation? Or I think Zidane apparently has been quoted saying that he's interested, and maybe let Wassim think we should hold on maybe for next season. Has our dilly-dallying allowed this little bit of doubt to take place? And why not Partey? We surely have the money. Ask us whatever you want, guys. Old school Goon is still coming in with some things.
I was just going to say to everybody who's on the chat, realistically, who do you think we're going to sign by tomorrow? It could be both, a lot of people, different, Jorginho, Partey, no one even. I personally will go for one player. It will be a last-minute supermarket dash for Arsenal as usual, panic buy. So put it on the comments what you guys think. Realistically, Arsenal are going to do tomorrow, because that's it. Is tomorrow or nothing until the next window.
I think, listen, I'm really interested in what's going to happen tomorrow, and I think maybe we'll do a little show on it as it sort of unravels throughout the day. But look, guys, if you want to see more shows like this, if you want the likes of Graham on, I believe we're going to have Turkish and lead judges on Wednesdays. That's starting to happen now. We've got a fresh, banging new intro coming out. That's going to hopefully look amazing. We've got artwork, we've got loads of things, and then we've got a lot of other shows in the pipeline. So please like, subscribe, and turn your notifications on. Why not? Sentiment FC says Shaheen is right. I feel in my heart we have to stick up the board. Have to stick up the board, stick on the sponsors for the betterment of the club. I agree. Look, it's the board. It's the Cronkies. Stop looking at managers. Stop looking at the players of the past. Arteta cannot have anything, any influence on what happened before he arrived. Let's get logical. He's only been there a couple of months. Stop saying get the manager out. It makes us look weak, in my opinion. Put some faith in the manager. I think he knows what he's doing. I can see clear changes. It's not his fault what happened. It's not his fault what's going on at the top. The negotiations should be better. Why hasn't Kroenke come out and given us the money up front and then said, give it to me later? Clearly, because he doesn't believe that we can shift this dead wood and he can't get his money back. That's the poor business that's been going on. Shaheen, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I just think, as I said, we've all waited as a fan base so long. Another day is not going to hurt. But please, I remember my club, battering teams. I remember my club not being a joke. I remember my club being the name. This old when Arsenal knock is a different type of knock. All of that, it doesn't exist anymore. I don't think that is the case anymore. If it was, Ora or Partey could have forced the move, but the slide under Kroenke's and the mismanagement of the board is just ridiculous. The only thing we've done twice, we've restructured behind the scenes. To what result? Nothing. It's still the same thing. Look, it's quite telling. We've got a board of directors. As I said this before, not everything is Kroenke's fault. We've got a board of directors who can't buy, who can't sell. So what are you guys here for? Why are you guys getting paid for? This is why I was saying we need somebody like a Tony Adams kind of thing, or that David O'Leary kind of person on board. They would have get it. They would get what we feel as a fan. They feel the pain that we feel as a fan as well. And you know what? We'll wait till tomorrow. I just hope that they make a couple of signings that we need. Address the problems that there's never been addressed for such a long time. And one can hope tomorrow, this time, hopefully, there was a couple of players that we all won at Arsenal holding the shirt, and they've been unveiled.
Listen, if we don't buy in the areas that we need addressing, I'm gonna be extremely disappointed. All right, I think we got a bit of momentum. We've finally got some positivity within the fan base. We won the FA Cup. There was a real positive sort of snowball effect into this coming season. And as the weeks have gone by, with the transfers, and then the season started, and things not developing and not escalating from the Gabriel signings and Saliba coming in and Willian coming in, instead of capitalizing on that positive snowball effect, we again, as a club, in my opinion, at the very top, have not seen this, not felt what the fans are feeling. We've not reacted, and slowly it's starting to look like the same old, same old. So if we don't replace those two, we don't address those two areas in midfield, I'm going to be extremely disappointed. I feel like Arteta is going to be let down. I feel like the likes of Aubameyang, who's just signed a contract, I'm sure he would have been given some assurances, will also be let down. I don't believe we should wait for January. January, the prices are inflated, all sorts of weird things. And players don't let, the best players are not available in January. The teams don't let them go. So let's see what transpires tomorrow. Keep your comments coming in. Like, subscribe, turn your notifications on, and we'll see if we'll do a show tomorrow. Yeah, Wednesday, guys. Wednesday we'll have Lee Judges and Turkish coming on a show called Real Talk. Hopefully that's going to be a regular Wednesday thing. We're still looking at Global Gooners, so any of you guys outside of the UK that are massive Arsenal fans, want to rep your area, give us a shout. DM me on @Lavanja on Twitter. And guys, it's been a pleasure having all you lot on here again. You always participate, ask lots of questions, great questions, by the way. Old School Gooner, Beast Titan, you've been a bit quiet today, haven't caused me any problems. Thanks for that. Tyrone, thank you. Amraj, all you guys, Jason, any of you guys, I hope I haven't left anybody out. You know, there's a lot of you on here. Why Not Sentiment FC? I'll never forget that name again. And Ken and all of these guys, please come on, keep supporting us. You'll see some great shows coming up. And on that note, I think we're going to have a chill now on a Sunday. So thanks for joining us at the Arsenal Lounge. I'm Lavanja. Shaheen, do you want to say goodbye to anybody in particular?
Thank you to Aaron for his very generous donations. And thank you to Graham. I mean, I'm sure he had some issues with his internet, but thank you to Graham for coming on as well. Hopefully we can have him next week as well. And don't forget Wednesday, guys. Please tune in. Turkish, Lee Judges. It's gonna be a fiery show. I can tell you that from now.
Listen, with Sunday surgery from now on, anytime we can get Graham on, now you guys know he's going to be on. Watch the game, see what you see, have your questions ready. You know, question him, ask him. You don't often get people that can technically break things down for you. So if you see anything, meet us here on Sundays for Sunday surgery. Then you've got Real Talk on Wednesdays. You're going to have Gooner, Global Gooners on a Thursday, I think, is coming up, and some other things. So keep an eye out for things. Turn your notifications on, subscribe and like. And guys, I'm Lavanja. I'm out of here.
Share our channel as well with your friends.
Share.
So they can obviously subscribe and you know, they will support us as well. And we're grateful to all of you for your support.
No, I love it. And let's hope it's not JorginhoLastminute.com. I see you slide that one in, Old School Gooner, last minute. Don't want Jorginho. I'd have Zaha any day of the week. So look, guys, hopefully we see you tomorrow. See what's happening with the transfers, and have a good Sunday evening. Peace out.